Banded DB rows. So if you're a home gym person or you just want some velocity movement, I think of like some of the rowers I've worked in the past, this could be a great exercise for you. And I'm running my home gym, working with a lot of people creating home gym programs with the equipment they have available. Obviously, at the time of the making this video, there's a gym equipment shortage, or at least it's hard to find without paying really high prices. And so here's some ideas that you can do to combine what you do have. If you have some bands, some strength bands and dumbbells maybe that are too light for particular exercises, you can band them. And I'm going to release some videos that correspond to this. This one is the banded DB row. You can see I've folded the band over. I'm going to wrap the band around the dumbbell, step on the band, and then I will grab both the band and the dumbbell. Right, and I'll hold on to dumbbell. Now you can lace that through the top of the dumbbell, which will give you a different feel, or through the middle of your fingers. I put it on the pinky side. I'm going to do a regular DB row, sweeping the dumbbell into my belly. Okay, it's not a post-out row, it's a DB row that's targeting the my mid-back, mid-traps, rhomboids, your typical rowing, lats type of activity. Make sure we're keeping the upper trap fibers quiet, so not shrugging into the movement, sweeping the dumbbell into the belly. Moving the blade, squeeze the blade here. You notice my elbow's a little bit, maybe a little bit high. The angle kind of makes it higher. You don't need to go high just to get up higher. Just make sure you squeeze the blade. There are different variants of rows, of course, but in a basic row like this, you don't need to try to torque out the front of your shoulder capsule. If you are going to rotate higher, rotate through your trunk, your T-spine as well. My offhand you can't see, but I'm controlling my scap, my shoulder blade too. So this is all about blade movement, reaching down and letting the blade slide across my rib cage, and then sweeping the blade across my rib cage the other way. So into retraction, protraction, right? All those fancy kinesiology terms, which are fantastic. But if you're like, well, I don't care about the terms, something I should do, move your shoulder blade without getting into this elevation, or just getting those upper trap fibers, or getting into that shrug position. Relax and let your shoulder blades do the work. Now, if I back this video up a little bit, when I go back to getting started, again, I'm going to set this my foot a little bit further back. That has a different feel to it when I start to work as compared to, that was a faux pas there. Okay. So I tried the first time, and that's part of this too. It's a pain in the butt to set up at times, but once you get the hang of it a few times, you'll have a method to your madness. You have a rhythm to it, and it's easier to get in and out of the positions. But and this one's going to pull back. So if you notice the line of pull, I really don't achieve a good line of pull until I get to the top, and so it's going to pull my arm in a kind of an awkward angle, but it does keep me from shrugging. And so, if you have some difficulty with shrugging, this could be a helpful tool in terms of correcting your movement. Now, what the band is doing, by the way, is it's slack at the bottom and it's tighter at the top. And so at the bottom, when you don't have as much of an advantage, the muscles have to work a little harder. The band is slackened as we pull, and we gain some advantage with the musculature. Now the band is going to get tougher. So if you're a rower, this could be an advantage. This rowing is always hard to work those upper back muscles in a high velocity movement, just because it's hard to pull quickly. If you have a barbell, you're going to shatter your ribs. People do bench pulls, they usually do them horribly. Please don't do those. Smash your rib cage. This is one variant you could do, though, to create some velocity movement without crushing your ribs or hurting your shoulder capsule. And I also move my foot forward here, and so I get a better line of pull now. Now I could, if I have a bench that allows me to, like this one did. I didn't do this just because I don't know what bench you have. If you have a cheap one, be careful it doesn't come off or tip over the bench. But this one's a pretty heavy bench, and so I could anchor the band here, and that would create a wonderful stretch on my lat, and as I reach forward, that would be like the ultimate, okay, in this dumbbell row. So line of pull is great, but if I wanted to get a more lat involvement, and I say ultimate because now we can incorporate the lat work a little bit more than in this position. This isn't bad. It's just going to be more mid-trap, rhomboid type of work, some lat. But when I stretch out now and can reach out in front of me, then I can incorporate more of my lats. That's going to be a fantastic exercise. So if you're at home, that's a way to work your lats. If you could anchor it, or if you have a heavier dumbbell or something that you feel comfortable with, that the band won't snap back and hit you in the head, and or your band tension is such that you can actually go through a range of motion. Even if it's just a little bit more band tension than you've had, it's going to be beneficial. But the point is, you can combine pieces of equipment to accomplish what you need to if you're low on equipment, or if you're, I'm thinking about a rower here in a sport specific sense, if you want to incorporate high velocity movement. Now I could, I didn't really cue in here to try to pull as hard as I could when I was in that stretch position to the road position, but I could do that. And I'd want to make sure I have a sufficient band that is thick enough and has enough resistance in it as I got to the end range of motion, was into that road position. So once I got there, that there was enough resistance that I wasn't going to put a lot of torque on my shoulder capsule. Still smooth on the way down, explosive on the way up. And that goes for anybody, but certainly if you're trying to train for hypertrophy, be smooth throughout. The explosiveness on the way up may not be as critical. Be smooth, keep the tension in the band as much as possible. I double folded it here. If you have one of those two handles, and so it's a strength band kind of setup where you have two handles on it, it's really going to depend on if you can hold one handle or if you loop one handle through the other one. If it creates any tension at all, you could step on both handles and hold the band wrapped around the dumbbell. There's different ways to do this. Just be careful is what I'm saying. You don't let one of those things go or they slip off your foot and you hit yourself in the head with it. So but this is an effective way to combine. Maybe if you have these two pieces of equipment around and neither one of them is giving you sufficient stimulus, you could combine them to make cumulative stimulus that can provide some nice training advantages.